Hi everybody, and welcome to the online lecture for Chapter 7 in our textbook. This chapter is about leadership in groups and teams, so we're going to look at what constitutes a group and what are some dynamics of groups. First, let's define what we mean by the word group. Is any collection or gathering of people a group? Well, not according to the definition that we're going to be working with. When we talk about groups in this course, our definition is going to be based on the following criteria. First, these people have come together with a common purpose or goal. They've come together to accomplish a particular task, and all of the members are focused on accomplishing that task together. Secondly, the members of the group are interdependent. We all depend on each other to accomplish the task. We can't achieve the desired outcome individually. We need everyone's participation. And following from that, we have mutual influence upon one another. The choices of each individual are going to have an effect on the group as a whole. Fourthly, we have ongoing communication. The members of the group are going to be together for a period of time in accomplishing a task, and there will be some relationship dynamics developing among them during their time together. And lastly, we have to consider the size of the gathering of people. Now, the book says 3 to 20 is a reasonable group size. I'd like you to think about what you think is ideal. Now, you need at least 3 for a group because 2 would be a dyad, and the only communication would be between the 2 of them. But once you add a third person, the communication dynamics multiply. So let's say we have 3 people, A, B, and C. There's a relationship between A and B, there's one between A and C, and there's one between B and C. If you add another group member, member D, those relationships are going to increase exponentially with every group member that you add. And the bigger the group gets, the more you can have subgroups splintering off. So what do you think is the ideal group size? Think of group projects that you've done in class. I've always thought that about 5 to 8 is ideal for groups, but what do you think? Remember, the textbook's authors say 3 to 20 and that up to 20 can work for a group. So based on those criteria, let's practice identifying when a collection of people or gathering of people can be called a group according to our working definition. Imagine you see a car accident and you pull off to the side of the road to see if you can help. Other drivers also pull over and get out of their cars to see if they can help. Are you and those other potential helpers a group? Or imagine it's a busy night at the grocery store and you're standing in a long checkout line. Are you and the other customers in your line a group? And finally, imagine that you and 2 other coworkers have a weekly meeting to work on your team project. Are you and those coworkers a group? Pause the video and think about these for just a moment, and then I'll tell you my answers. Those people who stopped to help at the scene of the accident? Well, we could say that they individually have the same goal. They want to be of assistance. Are they interdependent? Are all of them necessary to achieve the goal? We really don't know. Do they have mutual influence? It's hard to say. Are they going to have ongoing communication and the chance to develop a relationship with one another? Probably not. This encounter looks like a one-time thing. So while this collection of people might meet some of the criteria of a group, they don't really meet them all. They are not a group. But consider this, if you had 3 paramedics arriving at the scene of the accident to stabilize the injured driver and take him to the hospital, they would be a group because they would meet all of the criteria. Those people in line at the grocery store? No. Just being at the same place at the same time doesn't make you a group. Do you have a common purpose or goal? I'd say that you each have an individual goal, but not one overreaching goal that you're working together to achieve. Are you interdependent? Do you have mutual influence? That would be a stretch. Are you going to have ongoing communication and develop relationships with each other? That's unlikely. So these people are not a group. The 3 coworkers, yes, they are a group. They would meet all of the criteria. So here again are the criteria for a group, And consider that we use the term group quite generally in our everyday speech, but for purposes of our study of leadership, we're going to define it with these specific criteria. When people come together to form a group, their communication tends to evolve in a particular way. So we're going to look at 4 phases of group interaction. Think back on groups that you have belonged to and how these phases played out there. The first stage is orientation, or the getting to know you stage. At this point, members may be introducing themselves, exchanging contact information, sharing their thoughts about the project they'll be working on, and generally breaking the ice. The second stage is conflict. Now, we tend to think of that word as something bad. We might think of arguments and anger, and that's not necessarily how it's meant here. It just means that in your group work, you've reached a point where there are differing opinions. People start making a case for their opinion. You might be taking a vote on how to proceed. The third stage is the emergent stage, when people start to rally around one position or another. And then the fourth stage is reinforcement, where the group develops a consensus. Now, consensus is another word that people often misunderstand. It does not mean that there's a unanimous opinion. It means that everyone agrees to support a particular choice, a way forward that is acceptable to everyone. It may not be the favorite choice of each individual, but you agree that it's a solution that everyone can live with. Now let's talk about the problem-solving process in groups. A useful model is called the standard agenda. The standard agenda is explained in the book starting on page 212. Whenever you come together in a group in order to solve a problem, you'll have the best results if you follow these steps. The first step is to identify the problem. Now, this might sound obvious, but many groups skip this step because they assume everyone knows what the problem is, or that everyone understands the problem in the same way. So take the time to nail down exactly what the problem is that you'll be working on. Our authors recommend stating the problem as a question. Then everyone can focus on answering that question. Step 2 is to analyze the problem. This is where you look at the problem from all angles. What caused it? How big is it? Who is affected? How much will it cost to solve it? And so on. Step 3 is to develop criteria. This is an important step that people often skip because they want to jump right to solutions. But before you come up with solutions, you need to decide on the criteria for a good solution. Here's an example. Imagine you want to buy a car. You wouldn't just run out and start looking at every car for sale in your city. No, you'd establish criteria first, such as how much are you willing to pay? Do you want new or used? What color, what make and model, etc. Then you would seek a car that met your criteria. Or take the example of finding an apartment. How much can you spend on rent? Will you have a roommate? Does the apartment have to accept pets? Setting those criteria first helps you to narrow down the possibilities. So if you're a manufacturing company and you're determining a price for your product, your criteria might be that the price needs to cover material costs, labor, and give you a certain profit margin, that you want to set a price that's in line with your competitors, and things like that. So consider how setting these criteria will help narrow the scope of the discussion going forward. This is an important step, so don't skip it. Next, you generate possible solutions that fit the criteria. So this allows you to narrow the scope of your possibilities because the solutions that you come up with need to meet those criteria you've already decided on. Evaluate the possibilities and select a solution. The process of elimination can be a useful method for doing this. And then implement the solution. Figure out how you're going to follow through, who will do what, and so on. Make sure everyone understands the next steps and the way forward. So think about groups that you've been a part of. Have you followed this process for problem solving? Can you see places where you skipped steps or shortchanged a step? And how did that work out? If you follow the standard agenda when solving problems in a group or team, you'll use your time most efficiently. So those are some highlights of Chapter 7. Drop me a line or give me a call during office hours if you have any questions, and I will see you soon. Take care.